All right, so welcome everybody. So as the door continues to open and close, you guys come in and take a seat. We're going to get started, and we've got a really good friend of mine with us today, John DiJulius. I'll give you a little bit of insight into John before he gets started. However, we are recording this. I always get asked that in the chat about 16 times throughout the entire thing. So we are recording this. We will put it into the blog. It'll be on the website probably tomorrow morning. And everybody that registered for this will get a recap email probably tomorrow morning whenever Leah gets around to it, sometimes the same day. But if she gets behind, she'll get it out tomorrow morning. Really quickly, that has highlights. We do have a note taker on the call as well. So somebody's taking down the high level notes and it'll be in the recap. So you can take your own notes or you can just kind of listen and watch as we go through it. And then we got somebody special on here. Kristen McLean is with us today. And John, have you seen where they have like the really cool artists and they draw? Yeah. So Kristen is on with us today. She has a company called the Vivid Ink Company, vividinkcompany.com. So I encourage you to go check that out. That'll be in the recap too. So you have this
Is she drawing?
She's drawing it right now. So as we get through everything.
Kristen, I want thin cheeks.
I'm not sure it's a caricature, although
okay. All right.
We could arrange to have one of those done for you as well. So let me introduce John so I can get him cranking over here as people. We're just crossed over the 100 mark in the room, so that's really cool. Known as the authority on world-class customer service, John DiJulius is an international consultant, keynote speaker, and best-selling author. Successful entrepreneur with 3 businesses, John Roberts Spa, a chain of upscale salons named one of the top 20 salons in America, which just reopened. And as you can tell, John has a fresh haircut. Last time I saw him, he did not look like he had a fresh haircut, but he got that taken care of. John's primary business, the DiJulius Group, is an international consulting firm focused on changing the world by creating a customer service revolution, which is what we're going to talk about today. And then his third business, Believe in Dreams, is a nonprofit that helps make dreams come true for deserving children. John's newest book, The Relationship Economy, if you don't have a copy of that, be sure and go purchase that on Amazon. As an author, I know how important that is. John explains how you can make customer service your single biggest competitive advantage. Today, John's going to be taking his relationship economy concept and applying it to the virtual world we're currently adapting to, and discuss building and maintaining strong customer connections in a digital age, which we all need right now. So John, I'll turn it over to you. As questions come in, everybody just use the Q&A section if you've got a question for John as we're going, and I'll kind of jump over and lob those questions at you when they make the most sense. So thank you, John, for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Andy. Hello, Petra Nation. It is great to be with all of you. Today's illiterate are those who have an inability to make a meaningful connection with others. And I think while this has been true the last 15 years, I think it's really shined a spotlight in the last, 2.5, 3 months of just that need for human interaction. There's a seismic shift that's been happening. Technology is changing the world, not always for the better. For all the benefits it's bringing to businesses, it's come at a significant cost, and that cost is weaker human relationships that's vital to customer experience, employee satisfaction, and personal happiness. Something that, a customer experience geek I like is this study that showed the return on experience. And it showed a Watermark group showed an 11-year stock comparison of the customer experience laggards, the bottom 10%, to the S&P 500, to the customer experience leaders. And this was, which is the top 10% of every industry. And this was over 2007 to 2018. So you had both types of economy. And in that time, you can see the difference. The customer experience laggards had a 63% return, while the S&P 500 had a 138% return. And then the customer experience leaders, the top 10%, had a 183% return, which was significantly better, 300% better than the customer experience laggards. Taking that same study and just isolating it to the Great Recession, 2007 to 2009, you can see it. The laggards had a negative 57% return. The S&P 500 had a negative 16%, while the customer experience leaders had a positive 6%. So obviously the customer experience leaders during the greatest recession in the last 50 years were impacted. They were significantly less impacted. So the point is, in any economy, the customer experience is your single biggest competitive advantage. And hopefully you've already been there. You've been, competing more on the experience than price and all those other things. The robots are coming. By 2025, there will be more machines in the workforce than humans. Artificial intelligence will have the ability to do nearly any job currently being done by humans, from lawyers to judges, nurses to doctors, driving to construction. Someone just recently shared with me, is they have artificial brothels. Okay. I'm not recommending, I'm not judging, I'm just reporting, but I guess there's nothing.
There's not a slide for that, right?
No.
Yeah, I got a question in here. Maybe you can answer this for me. David Frick would like to know, is this being recorded? David?
It is. Okay, it is.
All right, awesome. Yes. So David, we are recording.
As well as we're going to share with you how to get every slide to go with it.
Well done. Awesome.
Okay.
So the robots are coming. Keep going.
Technology is not the enemy. Using it to eliminate the human experience is. So, even before the COVID quarantine, we are all living in the touchscreen age, and that's not generational specific. We love to beat up on millennials, but we got grandparents using devices. We got 6-year-olds using devices. And all this has resulted, even in old guys like me and Andy, that, we were raised and brought up, with relationship building skills because we didn't have a choice. This is all decayed our social skills because, the more reliant on these devices, and then you have a whole new generation that was never forced to build a relationship at no fault of their own. Leaders are getting younger. 40% of employees have a boss that's younger than them. Why? Because the reliance on digital intelligence, means that we need younger leaders. However, these younger leaders don't have emotional intelligence, and you can't microwave what it's taken, us, previous generations, decades to cultivate. So there's a cost in the decline of people skills, and that's brand loyalty, from customer loyalty, employee loyalty, and community and loyalty. So just to recap before we get into how we fix this, we are living in a relationship disadvantaged world, living in a digital age, which has resulted in decline of people skills. So many businesses the last 10 years built a high-tech, low-touch or no-touch experience. We have younger leaders, and we have a lack of relationship building training. And that's where, we can fix this. So make no mistake about it, the lack of social skills our society has is the problem of business leaders to solve. And so how we do that is we have to find a way to create our experiences to marry the digital with the human interaction. So that is really what the relationship economy is. It's where the primary currency is the emotional connection made with customers, employees, and vendors that results in the organization becoming the brand that customers can't live without, and which ultimately makes price irrelevant. So I love that phrase. That's what we work really hard to do in my 3 businesses and for our clients. Now, making price irrelevant doesn't mean we can go out there tomorrow, any of us, and double our fees, raise them 25%, especially in times like we're in right now. What it does mean is, based on the experience your brand consistently delivers at every touch point, and it's not dependent on me getting Andy, right? But if I get someone else, no, anyone I come in contact with in your brand, based on that experience, I'm so happy. I have no idea what your competition charges. So think about that. We're all price sensitive. And if you've been like me, I've driven 3 extra miles to save, 50 cents on something, not realizing I just lost in that exchange. But I think each of us personally and professionally have a couple of vendors, companies, that we are so loyal to that, if Andy lived in Cleveland and he needed a handyman, he needed his, something fixed at his house, I'd be like, you got to use Hooper. And I he'd be like, what's a Hooper? I'm like, oh my God, Hooper, his name's Brian Hooper, greatest guy. I've used him for 30 years. Doesn't work for me, but I've used him everywhere. I refer more business to this person. And what I always get is, well, okay, well, what's he charge? Because my carpenter charges, $125 an hour. And that's where I'm embarrassed. I have no idea what he charges. I don't know if he's 110, 150, nor do I care, because he's so good. He's peace of mind. He, over the long term, he talks me out of spending money when it's not, necessary. And, that's where I want to live. I want to be where, people brag about me, my business. And then when someone says, well, hold on, what is he or she or they charge? And it's like, I don't know. I could check with my assistant, but whatever it is, it's a bargain. So that's what making price irrelevant is. And so, as Andy mentioned, my first business that we started almost 30 years ago is a chain of upscale salons and spas, all in Cleveland. Now, Cleveland is not Nashville, Miami, New York, Vegas. The average haircut for a woman in Cleveland is $32. In some of those markets, that's $200-$300. Now, our least expensive hairdresser in John Roberts Spa that went through training, just got promoted onto the floor, charges $50 for a woman's haircut. And then we have several hairdressers, $100 to $130. And, during, normal times, even now, they're booked. The ones over 100 are booked, 3 weeks to 3 months for their first opening. However, years ago, in one of our locations, 3 doors down, a salon, a competitor, put this sign in their window, and our staff freaked, and they're like, oh my God, we charge $100 a haircut. They're going to run us out of business. We got to start running promotions. I said, no. We don't play those games. Let's focus on what our experience is. Let's focus that we are the experts and experienced providers at what we do. Let's improve that. And then we put this sign in our window. We fix $10 haircuts. And about 6-7 months later, that salon ended up going out of business. So don't get sucked in someone else's game if it's not yours. We choose to not compete in price wars. We compete in experience wars because there's a lot less players that don't do it that well. Now, I do believe in price match guarantee. So if you're paying attention, I should sound like a hypocrite. I should sound like I just contradicted everything I just said. But this is what I mean by it. This is why I want everyone on my team, my companies, and everyone listening in your companies to think and be able to articulate that we are the experts and experience, number one experience providers at what we do. And there's no one better. And we will not be oversold. In fact, if you can find it higher somewhere else, we will raise our prices and match it. Total different paradigm shift. But here's the thing, and here's a great exercise I challenge you to do. In normal times, every day, your employees, your customer service reps, your sales, everyone gets this question, hey, how much do you charge for X? And someone on your team answers. And then the next thing is a potential client or existing client. Oh, whoa, hold on. I can get that over here for 10%, 25%, whatever it is. And it's what we say next. And in most cases, and I want you to role play this because I think you're going to be disappointed in what your employee says. And, most of the time when I've done this, it's like, oh, well, we'll throw in and we'll, free shipping, and we'll throw in a free month of, and we'll do the, no, that's shrinking. I want someone to ask me about this price. Like if you ask me about this price of anything we do, it is giving me you're saying, John, please brag about you. Please tell me why your company is so incredible. And when we're done talking about, or when I'm done explaining why we charge what we charge, you're going to walk away thinking, oh my God, I can't afford to go cheaper. you'll be paranoid to trust someone who charges less than we do because how much it could cost you. And so that's what the importance of this is, that you don't apologize, right? You explain why that your price ends up being a bargain for all that they get. So to wrap that section up, I love this quote. It's painful to hear sometimes, but discounting is a tax you pay for being average. So let's change the rest of this presentation before we take Q&A to what you do about it, right? How do you dominate the relationship economy? 3 ways. Number 1, use technology to perform basic tasks, enabling employees to focus on what's most important, which is building relationships that result in higher customer loyalty, retention, lifetime value, and job satisfaction. And this does not matter that we're turning into a virtual world, and that pendulum may never come back to what it once was, or not even close. There are ways, and I'll share with you how we can build relationships and rapport virtually. Number 2, build a culture that creates emotional connections with your employees. I believe we've all witnessed the last 10 years in the U.S., a booming economy and record-breaking turnover, employee turnover, and people jumping from job to job. And I honestly believe that there's too many leaders and companies who are using the economy as a crutch. Employees don't leave bosses, leaders, and companies that take care of them. They're not out looking for 50 cents an hour, a dollar, 10% more an hour. That is usually not the top 5, dictators. But if it's just a job, well, yeah, I might as well make the most at doing a job. And then the third thing is create relationship building training for new and existing employees. And so this is where I really want to spend the rest of the time, because building relationships, there's no more important thing in the world other than breathing in oxygen, having the ability to build an instant rapport with others. And everyone on this call probably does this well, okay? And that's why you're where you're at. But does our next generation of employees, do our kids do this? And this is nothing will benefit us, and I'm sure everyone could agree, nothing has benefited us more than the ability to build an instant rapport with a total stranger. Let that be a total stranger, acquaintance, friend, coworker, client, you name it. Yet this is not taught anywhere. It's not taught at home anymore, because we're guilty of giving, our kids, devices and iPads to babysit them, right? And it's not taught in schools, and it's certainly not taught enough businesses. So there's 5 techniques that your relationship building training needs to represent, okay? Now, of the 5, and I'm gonna let you pick it, and maybe you could put it in the chat, which one. 4 of them can be trained. 4 of them absolutely can. Now, if you find employees with any of these 5, so much better, right? But I know for a fact that 4 of them, you can train people. There's one that you cannot. All the training in the world will not move the needle.
So one has to be inherently natural to someone.
Correct. So right. I'm going to dive into each one of them later, right after, but here's the 5. It must be authentic. Must have insatiable curiosity. Must have incredible empathy. Must love others. And must be a great listener. So looking at those 5, maybe you can type into the chat, and Andy can tell me what got the most votes of those.
Type in the chat, which one of these cannot be trained? Which one of these cannot be trained? Just type it into the chat. Let's see. I got empathy, authenticity, love people, curiosity, love people. So authentic.
I agree with love people.
All right, there's a lot of votes for that.
Yeah. And all the training in the world, if you don't love people, I can't train you to love people. So that's there's a lot of great interview techniques that help you recognize that. And I can answer it later. It wasn't part of this presentation, but you want to make sure you make your interview process ungameable. What I mean by that is we all know that we're going to go in an interview and and Andy's going to ask me, John, what are your two drawbacks? And I'm going to say, well, I'm a perfectionist and a workaholic, right? Bam, I was ready for that. So you want to build some things in there that the potential employees don't know what you're judging them on. And so I could share that if we have time or someone wants to ask that. But let's dive real quickly into each one of these. Must be authentic. And, people have great BS detectors today. They can tell if someone has a hidden agenda and they're just trying to get to something. Our interest needs to be, and others has to be genuine. We have to demonstrate that no one cares about our customers' business life as much as we do. If you're a B2B, I love this metaphor. Are you in your client's bomb shelter? You might be an accounting firm, a consulting firm, a legal services, whatever it may be, a vendor, manufacturer. And so the metaphor here is if we're under attack and, we all have a personal bomb shelter and a professional bomb shelter. The personal bomb shelter, I'm going to take my significant other and my 3 boys and that's it. Now as a CEO of a company, my professional bomb shelter only has space for 2, maybe 3 of my vendor partners. Okay. So of your CEO clients, how confident are you that your brand or you yourself have a spot secured in Andy Bailey's, professional bomb shelter? So that's important because, what we're all looking at every year, right, is, how do we save, a couple, percentage points on that P&L for next year? And we start looking at each line item saying, oh, we can outsource that to a low spirit. But you better have someone in that room that's, a key stakeholder says, skip it. No, but you know how much? No, skip them. Get it from somewhere else, right? And that's the making price irrelevant. So here's how we become a partner that our clients can't fathom life without, right? Love what you do and make it obvious. Make sure your employees are making it obvious. There's people that love what they do, but sometimes they don't make it obvious. And it's that old thing of, are you happy? Tell your face. Tell people, how much you enjoy helping businesses grow. Tell people how much you enjoy being in this industry, working with clients. Your clients should never meet anyone smarter at what you do than you. And I'll tell you what, me and Andy were talking about this as we got on. One of the things I'm loving about quarantine is my phrase is, how much are you consuming this week? And that means consuming, inhaling, reading, watching videos, listening to podcasts, reading articles, books, you name it. And that's always been a trigger of mine with my employees and myself. But I'll tell you, with the quarantine, with not having to drive to the airport or drive to work, and I can't listen to ESPN, during my workouts, I am just, going crazy with, more and more consumption, 2 to 3 hours a day, which is more than usual. I hope we're taking advantage of the opportunity we've been given here. I mean, I'm on fire because of how much I'm learning. Go ugly early. Be transparent. If you have bad news, do not hold it back. Do not say, hey, Andy, how you doing? What's going on? How's the family? And then eventually get to, well, what you wanted us to do, we weren't able to do. You open with that. You go ugly early, say, Andy, I got to share something with you. Here's what it is. And then immediately say, here's what we're willing to do, figure out, work together. And the way you explain that you turn the tables, that Anthony, the person you're saying, Andy, the person you're saying no to, that, you're giving bad news, he feels so bad for how bad you feel that he starts empathizing. No, John, it's all right. No, Andy, I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight. No, John, I totally understand this, So go ugly early. Again, that goes back to authenticity. When don't give them a shit sandwich where, you compliment them, give them some bad news, and you come back with some good news. Be a resource broker. Not only everything that you do, but find out what, their top 3 goals are. Find out personally and professionally. If they're running their first marathon, they should have every resource of how to diet, run, train. If they are thinking about painting their walls orange, introduce them to the 3 best interior design painters in their city, even though that's not what you do. Be as committed to the success of your customers as they are. Know their top 3 goals. And trust me, whatever their top 3 goals were at the beginning of the year has changed. Know what their top 3 goals are. Educate versus sell. That's so important. Just make sure we're educating. And sometimes that might mean we're talking them out of doing business with us or certain things, because that's just not what they need right now. But when you do that and it's genuine and in the best interest, you'll get more business and more referrals from them because of the trust factor. And that just should make your customers not be able to imagine a world without you and your business in it. Number 2, must have insatiable curiosity, dying to learn about others, not only about subjects that interest you, but subjects that are unfamiliar. And this was, I was really painful at this 25, 30 years ago. If you couldn't talk to me about customer service and sports, I just thought having a conversation with you was the most painful thing in the world. It's embarrassing, right? Now I've learned, you know, how much there is to learn from people and how I benefit of talking to them about what they are passionate about. You become investigative reporters. So I did a TED Talk, which is kind of the whole thesis of this book called Meet as Strangers, Leave as Friends. And you know, this is what we have to train our employees, that everyone they come in contact with over the phone, via email, face-to-face when that comes back, is everyone that we come in contact with has an invisible sign above their head that says, make me feel important. Our assistant, the UPS man that's walking in, you know, whoever it may be. And so how do we take advantage of that? Stephen Covey once said, people don't listen with the intent of understanding, they listen with the intent of replying. That's painfully true. And the scientists found that it took the human brain a 0.6 seconds, average, 0.6 seconds to formulate a response to something said to it. Then they studied hundreds, thousands of conversations and found the average gap between people talking was 0.2 seconds. 1/3 the time my brain will allow me, I'm responding to a conversation that maybe me and Andy are having. How? Why? Well, because I have my answer ready minutes ago. I'm just waiting for, you know, Andy to come up for air so I can, you know, get on to my point, right? So how do we fight that urge? There's 2 urges, right? To you know, finish listening, and the other urge is not to be preoccupied about ourselves, and that's a natural urge, because it's my flight, it's my son that got in trouble, it's you know, my salesman that's, you know, not hitting his quota, whatever that may be. But we have to fight that urge. So, you know, the greatest gift we can give anyone is the gift of our attention, and our attention is on them. So the best technique we've used and all our clients have adopted, and they've put it in their CRM system. We haven't found a CRM system that doesn't let you customize it. Anytime you come in contact with anyone for 3 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes, you want to focus on their Ford. Okay. If you can focus and tell me 2 or more things of someone else's Ford, you not only built a relationship, you own the relationship, because to each and every one of us, our own Ford is our hot buttons. It's what gets us talking fast. It's what gets us excited, right? So family, are they married? Do they have kids? How old are their kids? You know, what activities are they in? Occupation, right? What do they do? Who do they do it for? What's their title? How long they've been doing it? Recreation might be, you know, most people's, right? Are they runners? You know, hot yoga, coach Little League, you name it. And then dreams. What's on their bucket list? What's their, you know, dream vacation? What's their encore career performance that they're working towards? Or what's the charity that they love to give their time to? So, you know, finding ways, you know, if you meet my 3 boys or any of my boys, they know that, you know, if I see them talking to you, you know, I'm going to question them. You know, is Andy married? Does Andy have kids? What does Andy do? Right? I want to make sure that we're constantly focused on the other person. This is a great gift and a great technique. Number 3, must have incredible empathy. This is our one human superpower, and we really have to work on it. And, you know, depending on what business we're in, or even dealing with, you know, the COVID-19, you have to be careful of getting empathy fatigue. And empathy fatigue, think about it, if you work in a hospital, you work in a funeral home, right? You can get empathy fatigue real easy, because everyone you're dealing with, is suffering, or the worst thing you can suffer. But empathy fatigue can creep into any of our lives, and where we just become numb, and and you just got to be careful of resetting yourself. So when we listen and think from the other person's point of view, their message becomes much clearer. We can understand their plight. The importance of every interaction becomes crystal clear. And we have to hesitate, and this is hard, not to share how you can help them until you understand what they really want and need. Otherwise, you're just throwing up on them. So there's 5 key reasons why we lack empathy. And I don't mean like genetically, it's just why we could become, our frontline employees don't know what world-class is, right? Most of us didn't, grow up staying at 5-star resorts, driving a Mercedes-Benz, flying first class, yet we expect them to give that type of experience. It's not fair. A lot of times our customer-facing employees aren't our customers. They aren't in their 40s, 50s, professionals, all those. And it doesn't mean we change who we hire. We got to make sure they can understand it from their point of view, which is we have to do a better job of making sure our employees and we, the company, is constantly looking at from the customer's perspective. We lack empathy because we compare ourselves to the rest of our industry, right? Oh my God, we're the best in the industry. Oh, we're head and shoulders. Well, if that is true, a lot of cases it doesn't matter, because if Petra's my coach, right, I'm then not calling their nearest competitor and seeing how far of a gap there is. I don't need their nearest competitor, but I may be calling my accountant or lawyer or whomever, and I'm comparing those experiences that they get right back to me. They're anticipatory, whatever that may be. And, finally, we become numb. We look at, a customer as 201B. That could be a room and bed number. Our 5:30 haircut, our, keynote in Nashville. And those are dangerous things when we start labeling them and we stop thinking about them as a human being who has a lot at risk doing business with us and a lot riding on this, and that customers they're answering to, bosses that they're answering to, family that they're answering to. Number 4.
Hey, John, before you move,
yes, sir.
Can you dive a little bit personally into that empathy fatigue concept?
Yeah.
A little bit deeper.
So it originally, I work with, one of the companies I work with is Travel Centers of America, and most of us know them. They're all over the US and Canada as a place where we're driving. We might get off and get gas and beef jerky and back on the road. Well, they have a truck repair behind that we're familiar, that we don't even know. So if you're an over-the-road truck driver, and you get a flat tire, radiator leak, whatever, that's where you have to go. And so you have to understand that that's a grudge buy to the truck. No truck driver is excited to have to pull into travel centers and be out the next 2 to 3 hours, just like none of us would in a normal workday like to wake up, go out to your car, about to head to work and see that you have a flat tire, right? That's a grudge buy. The grudge buy is 2 things. You don't want to spend the money on it, but a lot of cases, the money isn't as big of an issue as the 2 hours you can afford to lose right now. So everyone that comes into travel centers is angry and impatient and says, listen, you got to get me out of here right away. I have to be here. And that's all they hear over and over and over and over again. And so you can kind of become empathy fatigued, like not say it, but insinuate, oh yeah, well, get in line. The other 3 drivers are in front of you and I'll get to you when I get to you. So, no matter what our business is treating Andy who comes in and Andy's situation, he might just need air put in his tire, right? Pales in comparison to the driver who is in front of him who, has no brakes and has no this and no this. But I got to treat Andy like, oh God, I can just imagine. I know how busy you must be. And you want to get home to your kids tonight, and not trivializing Andy as the 10th headache I have today, right. Or dude, you're lucky compared to the 3 other people that beat you in here, or whatever that may be.
Yeah, I think that's probably something that's happened just because of where we're at in business.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I think a lot of people are probably experiencing a little bit of that.
Yeah, and I think it really applies to us right now and with our employees, right? Like, their fear and anxiety, and some have real situations, and others you're like, really, you're like losing your shit over that. But again, it's all relative to them.
Yeah, and that I know in that it may not be the TA centers that you were talking about, but I've seen the videos that you've done with the day in the life video where you recreate a day in the life of an individual that's your customer. I think this one actually happened to be a truck driver.
Yes.
Allowed somebody to see their experience, and it was a good training video, right? So the person coming in, you knew that they had a 6-year-old kid. They were attempting to get to the ball game, and it was a day in the life of what that person was going through. So that's a good reminder.
Yeah, and that's why we create a day in the life of our customer video, just exactly for that. So you have compassion and empathy, and don't take them for granted or look at them as next.
Yeah, it's tough. Somebody just said, I bought a car yesterday and experienced customer fatigue from the guy who sold me my car. It makes sense now. So it's probably quite a bit of that out there. The reset, you said we got to reset ourselves in this. What are some examples of how we can reset other than, hey, let's recognize it and talk about it like we have? What else could we do to reset?
I'm going to jump to being a great listener because I want to wrap this up in 3 minutes. So I give everyone plenty of time.
Yeah, of course.
So number 5, must be a great listener. You need to have fierce attention. What fierce attention looks like is if you ask a question and don't ask 2 to 3 follow-up, odds are you weren't really listening. So we should try to maintain a 4-to-1 ratio of questions asked versus answered. And remember, not defend our ideas, explore new ones. So you can't be listening if you're talking. There's a great myth about being a great listener is, being a great listener is being a sponge. And they say that's not being a great listener. A sponge, we think of it as just letting the other person talk and you just occasionally say an aha. And they say, no, you don't be a sponge, be a trampoline. And a trampoline is doing that 4-to-1 that you're taking, Andy's passion and ideas and asking more clarifying questions, and you're heightening his energy and going deeper to, how he came to think like that, or why he loves fly fishing, or, whatever that may be. So some really cool conversations, nevers and always, right? And they're obvious, but never multitask. And so something we've done for 3 years that obviously is really common now, but I would strongly encourage not to get away from this, is in my company, we've never, the last 3 years, have been allowed to do a conference call with a client, vendor, anyone. It had to be a Zoom call. And it's just that, I see Andy, right? He's not a voice. He's not, and, he's a really nice guy, and, he laughs when I said a joke. And I also can pick up some Ford, he might have a picture of his family or his recent vacation. But the number one reason why I want to do it is if you ever get me on a call, I will start multitasking. I will start looking at my phone and see my son is texting me for the 18th time, something I said no to, and I'll start responding to that. And meanwhile, Andy says he has to go to a wake this week, and I'll be like, oh, great, have a great time, doing that. And so, the Zoom makes sure that I'm on stage and I don't start multitasking. Never ask a question because you're dying to answer it, right? We could all be guilty of that. Never finish the other person's sentence. Never steal their thunder. I've been guilty of that, thinking that I was creating a connection, but then ended up I'm kind of one-upping. Andy, where are you going for vacation? Oh, we're going to Maui. Oh my God, we have a place in Maui, right? Well, that kind of like what's Andy want to tell me about his first trip to Maui now? So whatever that may be. Never share your accolades. Some conversation always. Obviously, remove any distractions. I have a little trick I like to do with my employees and my kids. If they come in and ask me if they can have 5 minutes, 15 minutes, I'll actually take my cell phone out of my pocket, which looks counterintuitive. I'll say, hold on, and I'll turn it off and put it in the drawer. And that just makes them feel like, they are the most important person to me right now. Demonstrate that your full attention is on the other person. Always listen with your eyes. That's key. Be an active listener. ask probing questions, follow-up questions. Why? Tell me more. Can you give me an example of that? What does that look like? Show empathy and support in a non-judgmental way. Show patience, let the other person finish their thought and feel heard. Wait 2 seconds before responding and make sure they are done. Make the other person the centerpiece. Always be in learning mode. Always collect forward and document for future use. And always commit to a follow-up when it's called for. And then 2 more slides and I will take questions. I have 2 pop-up notes on my phone. One at 10 p.m. And this is what pops up at 10 p.m. How many people had a better day as a result of coming in contact with me? And I try to, reflect on that. And I'll be honest, I always don't like the answer to that, but that's something, a compass for me. And then at 6 a.m., act as if today's the day. You'll be remembered for how you treat others. That's another guiding compass for me. All right.
Those are awesome. And you've got contact slides on here if anybody would like to get in contact with John. We do have some questions, and if you do have questions, make sure you're just putting them in the Q&A, and I'll run through these for you, John. Let's start with this one. Everyone is being a resource right now. So true. My prospects have told me that they are not reading emails for that reason. When everyone is giving away services and everyone is being a resource, how do you stand out from the crowd?
I call them, get on, I think, people are available. We're all more available than we've ever been, and just making sure that you're there for them in a non-soliciting way. But that you're just here, to bounce ideas, strategize. If you got some good best practices, I just heard of a really good best practice of, 2 of them. One CEO was so addicted to headline news, and it was having such a negative impact, and we all know better, but we are guilty of it, right? That he went to parental controls on his own devices and blocked himself from going to headline news. I thought that was brilliant. And he said within 48 hours, he had such a better outlook. But another CEO did something that's really cool is he started offering, his staff Zoom calls at like 6 a.m. with a yoga instructor or a meditation instructor or an entertainer at 5 p.m. a happy hour. So, anytime you get something that you think, someone could benefit from, even outside of your own area of your sweet spot, I think we all love to hear that.
I've gotten a couple of emails from folks that had like an embedded video. So they had taken their phone and shot a video, or they put it on a system that allowed that. One of them, it was a sales call, and the video, I clicked it to play the video because it had a picture of the guy and said play. So I pushed play, and basically he told me what he was going to do, which was send me an email to book a call. And I thought that was pretty creative because it did get me past, as this email said, just the standard, hey, I'd like to talk to you, like to talk to you, like to talk to you. It was quick introduction. This is what we do. I'm going to send you an email. Would love to get on a call with you. So that might be something.
Oh, I did have a great, you reminded me of something. So someone sends me an email saying, I'd love to break bread with you. How does next Wednesday at 6 p.m.? And I'm like thinking like this was like, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. And I'm like, is this guy living in a,
where is he from?
What is he talking about? So I respond with, if we're going to be, whatever, like I just had no idea where he was coming from. He goes, no, tell me what your favorite meal is. I'm going to have it picked up, delivered to your house. We'll break bread. I'll send a bottle of wine. And I did it. Like, it was the most creative way to get my attention. And it was so bizarre. I had dinner with him at 6 p.m., on a Wednesday night.
That's awesome. So you had him on a call and you guys had dinner together. That's great. So that's a couple of quick ideas.
Yeah.
Let's see. How about understanding and addressing the fears of clients, particularly in current times? Sometimes just listening might alleviate the pain. So the question is around, how about understanding and addressing the fears of our clients?
Yeah, I lump that together with our employees. Like, I just think we need to, over communicate and touch base and, just hear their fear and anxiety personally and professionally and relate to them. and, share anything we have. And even if when we don't have updates, give them updates. I just think, over communicating, Vern says it best, the number one KPI we should be talking is tracking is communication time. It just really puts people that depend on us, their fears and anxiety go way down. So I just think that's, we should be spending the most hours communicating, with our colleagues, our clients, our advisors, our employees, and making sure that no one goes more than 4 or 5 days without getting touched by someone in your organization.
Yeah, I know I'm a member of a group that has forums, right? So we get together once a month, and there's never a good time to go do it. We have to tear away from something to go do that. But and we're sitting there for like 3 hours. But that conversation that happens in that 3 hour period of time always allows me to kind of let some things go. So I think to your point, communication being really important. Our customers are hospitals. Do you ever break your price match rule, reducing price not to go to a competitor? In times like COVID, where hospitals are bleeding and fighting to stay open, isn't good customer service flexing to your customer circumstances when it's unprecedented like COVID?
Yeah, and I don't think there's any blanket, thought with it. Here's my strategy. So when we've had, we're all going to be busier. It's easy to say most of us are going to be busier fourth quarter of 2020 than we are right now, right? And so, there's 3 problems with waiting for that to play out. One, we're not as productive right now as we'd like to be. Number 2, we could be too busy come, the September, October, which is never, a good thing. You start compromising the value you're giving out. And then 3, we businesses typically, to try to, create business, they start discounting, and that usually isn't a good strategy, because it's a race to the bottom, and your customers start figuring they never have to pay full price again. So one of the things we've done, and we've recommended to a lot of our clients, is if someone's putting you off right now because of sales, not because of bandwidth, but because of sales, I am more open to saying, hey, we'll defer payments, relax, the payment schedule. If it's 30, we'll go 60, 45, 90, whatever that is. Now, this is a company you trust that's been around, and it isn't, someone, that just, could put you in danger. And so what that does is it spreads out your future demand now. And so, and then when the fourth quarter comes and business gets busier, you're able to take on that demand. So you're kind of getting paid double in the fourth quarter, let's say, but you also didn't have to train your customers that, you give discounts. Now, you have to do whatever you have to do to keep, the lights on and the businesses, and you want to be there. But I think being there for a client of saying, hey, Andy, I know times are tight. You had to shut down a few locations temporarily. Let's not stop the work we're doing. I am totally fine, because you've been such a good client of, you paying us in 60, 90, 120 days. I think that's, very generous if your business model can afford that.
Yeah, and then it does give you a forecast to know what's going to be in the future for you as well. So that's a good answer to that. We are recording this. I got another ask on here about recording it. And we'll get a blog and a recap after with a link to the recording. Let's see, with a younger workforce, will they concur or care about developing emotional connection? Recent studies have begun to suggest that younger generations may prefer communicating via an app or virtual or augmented reality, a la your reference to increased use of robotics. So do you think that the younger workforce cares about developing emotional connections?
They really do. I've never understood why they are so receptive when they get, and maybe it's just, that they've never had it and the high they get. But I have 150 employees, and probably well over 100 of them are in their 20s, and they are rock stars, and they're great at this. And, if you go to Chick-fil-A and the Ritz-Carlton, they got 20-year-olds just doing these things. And it's like, when they get turned on to this, it's so rewarding. That's why turnover is so high, because if it's just a transaction, right, there's no reward in that, even as an employee. But if I'm building a relationship and my client Andy's getting to know me and he's sending me thank yous and knows that I just had my first anniversary, and and like, that's rewarding. That's better than a tip, And so when you're allowing people to be day makers, think about the last time any of us was a day maker. You paid the guy's toll behind you who you never met before, right? Whatever those silly situations are. The person who feels the best at the end of the night is the day maker. Like that, that I went to bed tonight and knew I kind of made, someone's day. And so when you allow employees, you put them in that type of culture, they go home more fulfilled than, transactional models.
Are you going to do your Customer Service Revolution conference this year?
We are planning it. Yes, it's in October 7th and 8th.
October 7th and 8th. That was a question we had up here. What tools and conversations do you recommend for all team levels to buy? We have 1, lower level employees, just a paycheck, and 2, veteran employees who struggle understanding why we need to change. So what tools and or conversations do you recommend for all team levels to buy in?
Yes, I'm making sure I understand it.
What tools and conversations do you recommend for all team levels to buy?
I think it's just, the training and the reward. Obviously do great interview, but listen, we're all, as employers, it's going to be an employer market. There's going to be a lot more talent out there, which is a good thing. And the other thing is, when we're talking about buy-in, when we were all busier than we've ever been the past, 7-8 years, and I go to my sales guy, Andy, or, whatever he is, and he's making his best commission ever, and he's busier than ever, and he has 3 offers from our competitors for better deals. I don't got much buy-in from him. I'm like, hey, Andy, there's a better way. And he's like, looking at me and say, I think I got it figured out.
Yeah.
But this makes us all humble, appreciative for the brand we're working for, thankful that the brand survived. And if you go to someone and say, Andy, there's a better way to do this, all of a sudden the student appears. And so, I think, it always goes back to purpose and tying the employee's, job to the company's purpose versus just, trading hours for dollars.
Yeah. So go back to the core purpose of an organization. This is why we need to change. Obviously, COVID-19 has created change for a lot of different organizations, and leveraging that particular disruption change into additional learning and the learning opportunity there. Awesome. Well, listen, we've come up to the bottom. Let's see. What is your favorite resource that you're currently using to deliver high quality experience, book, app, or service?
Now, Andy, what's yours?
Well, Zoom, we've been wearing out and learning how to use it. I do mail a ton of books. I've got 10 over here that I wrote handwritten notes this weekend that'll go out to a group of 10 people. So, that's a favorite resource that I used to use and always use to deliver kind of this high quality experience. You use an app for communicating with people at all, or are you on TikTok yet?
No, I filmed something for TikTok, but I don't have one yet. But I hear that thing's exploding. I call it like tic-tac-toe, and people laughing. Like, where's this tic-tac-toe coming from? Yeah,
I understand. Well, that gets us through our questions, John. Man, I appreciate you being here today. I've talked about this with you before, but a few months ago, I met this lady, Robin, and she has this little company called Tiny Superheroes. This is a tiny superhero cape, and her company places these on kids with disabilities and are dealing with disease. And her mission is to change the way people view disabilities in kids. So we're going to donate some of these capes to those kids in your name for being with us today.
Oh, thank you.
It's kind of our gift, and we've kind of taken them on as a as a group that we want to support long term.
I love that.
Again, Tiny Superheroes. If anybody wants to check that out, please do. This will be recorded. It'll be on the blog tonight or tomorrow, and there'll be a recap in everyone's inbox shortly with all the notes as well as the slides. Now you've got DJ. Is this text thing here, John? Where it says want the slides? Do they just text?
Yeah. If you go to, you go to jdj.click.
Okay.
And then you answer a question and you'll get a link to all the slides.
All right, perfect. So they can grab it.
And you also get the chapter of Meet as Strangers, Leave as Friends in a PDF.
Perfect. So they can go there and on the web and do that. We've got two big workshops this coming up week. We have a government relief guidance, which is around PPP and forgiveness for PPP. And then we have back on track in Q3 planning. I think a lot of people are through a little bit of the disruption and they need to get themselves back on track for the end of the year. So we're doing a big workshop around Q3. So getting ready in the month of June so that you can hit Q3 running really hard. Please check those out on petracoach.com. And that's where the blog will be with this recording and all the notes from that. John, always a pleasure, my friend. Great to see you. Glad you got a haircut and you were able to give some haircuts as well. So you look like all put back together, man. And
thank you, Andy.
We'll see each other in person very soon. So thank you for being here.
Wait.
All right. Have a good day.